idea you need a weapon that can have the ability to fire 20, 30, 40, 50, 120 shots from that weapon, whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Death by Tyranny podcast. This will be, I don't know, maybe the 5th time that I've done this tonight for some reason or another. So I'm not going to be on here too long, but I did want to get some things moving around in you guys' brain, something to think about going into Monday, maybe some topics to look up, some podcasts to listen to keep us all moving in the same direction, so... yeah, we're going to get into it, and sorry I didn't get back on yesterday. I had a lot of back-to-school shopping to do, and today I did a lot of yard work, and now my throat's I feel like I'm getting congested, and, so I'm probably going to be clearing my throat, and as I do all allergy season long. So I do apologize for that in advance, and the fan, it is super hot in here today. But we'll go ahead and get it started. So... The thing is with the federal government and the way we live in America, there has always been a reason to implement something new that benefits the federal government, the big corporations. The bigger we get, the more of these things we see that come into play and come in effect, and they're always supposed to start out as a short-term fix for a big problem, and then we find out that we're so used to it now, and nobody questions it. And I think that's where we're getting with the pandemic, and that's why I bring it up. So like income tax and stuff like that, there's all these things that were implemented during a crisis, right? And since we're at a time of peace, well, not anymore, since the pullout of Afghanistan, which I will be getting to here shortly. But so instead of a crisis, we got a pandemic. And we all know it started out as the 14 days to slow the spread. And here we are almost 2 years later, and we're still, slowing the spread? You're not going to stop the spread, okay? There's always going to be COVID-19. There's always going to be the flu. There's always going to be something, right? But now they have all this power. They're not going to give it up. And we knew that. And there were people from the beginning that said, if you let them do this, they will never give it up. And now we're getting the mandates. And for the people that want to argue about the fucking mandates, look at New York City. Look at San Francisco. Look at all the teachers and all the nurses and all the police and all the military that are going to lose their job. That is their income. Not everybody is Joe Biden and says, hey, we're going to make the pipeline disappear. Boom. Go learn how to program. That's not how life works. If you're going to make it difficult for me to feed my family, if you're going to make it difficult for me to even leave my house, for my children to attend school, to a public school no less, that benefits in large part the city and the government, then yes, everything that you're doing is making it a mandate to do these things. And it's not going to stop there. It's not going to stop with the vaccine mandate. It's not going to stop with the mask. And I shared it on my Facebook. The CDC has come out with guidelines to essentially make your cul-de-sac in your neighborhoods camps. Now, we've seen pictures come out of Australia and out of Canada, and I do believe that Australia has already been using some of their COVID housing or whatever that they've already begun making. And I think the one up in Canada was a huge facility that I've seen pictures of with, 20-foot fences with barbed wire around them. And Well, they know America's not going to play that, and we still have our guns. And Canada still has some too, but for the most part, they're in the process of getting rid of them. And that's why you don't see them as ahead of Australia and some of these COVID restrictions as Australia is. And that's why you don't see us where Canada is. And you can fight with me on that all day, but that's just that it is what it is. Yeah, sure, you can make a couple of people do a couple of things, but if the rest of them start shooting back, you can't make them do that, right? Your rights are your right, but only as long as you're willing to fight for them. And you can't do a whole lot of fighting, as Biden likes to point out, unless you have tools and things to fight with. It's just the reality of it. So I don't think we're going to see these pandemic restrictions go anywhere, which means the pandemic isn't going anywhere. So just buckle up, boys and girls, and if you're vaxxed or not, it shouldn't matter. And the only reason not to be vaxxed, it's this simple. If someone says I don't want it, that's good enough. If you say, yeah, I think it should be somebody's choice, but it depends. It doesn't depend. If they don't want it, that should be good enough. They don't need to justify their choice. If they don't want to put a mask on their kid, that should be good enough. They're the parents. That's it. That's all there is to it. And even some of this my body, my choice argument shit is ridiculous. So, I mean, we just have to see where it goes, but I can guarantee you the more people that fall in line, the more we're going to get, the longer it's going to go. And for the most part, the people that are against the vax right now, if you want to point and blame the conservatives, which it's not, that's not the biggest groups that are doing it, but they're the biggest ones fighting for the right not to. We've been the ones that have ran the peaceful protest. Yeah, you had, 300 people enter the Capitol, and now the FBI releases that it's not a conspiracy. So what? And then you have Evan from InfoWars get a warrant for his arrest the day after he comes out against the FBI saying that they knew that it was going to happen beforehand. They were the reason why the doors were open. That's why you've seen these people get let in and they weren't breaking in. But then on the BLM side, you got buildings burning down, cities under attack, autonomous zones. You want to talk about an insurrection? What do you call an autonomous zone? Did you see anybody get prosecuted for that? No. And the ones that did, in large part, were pulled away in the middle of the night, probably because they committed some type of act of violence. It wasn't them just walking around with a protest sign or walking into a building. And it was so few of them that you didn't hear any of the stories after the fact. But then you have, 300-400 people going to the Capitol, and you have 700 people charged with conspiracies and crimes. That makes no sense. So for the ones that are leading the way in peaceful protest, whether you like to believe that or not, we're telling you, whether you want to get vaxxed or not, this isn't the way. We've been a good example up until now, and probably for the foreseeable future. Maybe you want to take us up on this a little bit. And now I would say that's starting to shift a little bit with the media and Biden's followers because of Afghanistan and the pullout of Afghanistan. That now you have some people going, oh, maybe everything the Biden administration is trying to push isn't a good thing. But then you still want to push everything else he's doing? Like any of that shit was good? None of it was good We were telling you the whole time. So maybe just believe us on more things than just this one thing, and maybe things will go a little bit better for you guys. Maybe our lives might actually get a little bit better in America. Instead of everything falling apart, instead of all this fighting, instead of all the division, maybe you say, hey, here's our reasons why we don't trust government. Here's our reasons why we don't like Biden and his administration. It has nothing to do with him being racist, which Biden is, by the way, but that's not the reason we're given. It has none of the reasons, why you're saying that we or why you guys don't like Trump. We're not saying Biden's mean. We're saying he's not there. And that is a very clear thing to see. It's almost not debatable at this point. So maybe see more than just one point. Just this one time. Maybe follow us down the rabbit hole 2 or 3 points later and see where we get. And for what it's worth, my next thing I wanted to cover is maybe this was the plan all along. Maybe the plan was to fuck up the pullout of Afghanistan so bad that we had to get Biden out of office. They hold the power whether Biden is in office or not. He was just their way in. He was the one who looked like a moderate. And he also looked like a lot of the people that voted for him that they pulled from the conservative side. The older, whiter, more moderate-centered people that would have voted for Trump was like, well, this guy seems like he's like me. Maybe he knows what he's talking about. I know he's a Democrat, but everybody keeps telling me Trump's bad. Maybe Trump's bad. Trump's not like me. I don't get on Twitter. I'm not mean to everybody all the time. So maybe that was their key into the White House and the key to winning the Senate and the House and to have the whole thing line up. And this is another point we tried to tell you. Once he got in the White House, it wouldn't be shortly after they would find a reason to put Kamala Harris in there. And even the Democrats didn't like Kamala Harris. When she got attached to Biden, they tried to make exceptions for her because she was black, because she was a woman. But as far as her politics, nobody liked them ever. And a lot of the Democrats even still, they want to know where she is. They wanted to know why she didn't do anything about the border, and so she did it, and then she fucked that up. So maybe this fumble of the Afghanistan pullout was by design. Because only now do you see the media and the left point at Biden and go, maybe he's not there. Maybe we do need to implement the 25th Amendment. Maybe this was their plan all along. We know Bill Gates was talking about a pandemic far before when it happened. We know he was kind of moving in that humanitarian direction way ahead of the pandemic. And now a lot of people, well, I don't see him as a fucking doctor or anything medical for that matter, but a lot of people do. And maybe that was the whole goal. You do have a lot of times you have this, hey, look at this going on over here while I'm doing this over here that's totally different. You do have that going on. Like I said, the Afghanistan thing will probably play in their favor a lot. If they want Biden out, they could get Biden out right now. But if they want him to stay in, he'll stay in. It doesn't matter. It's what they want. But they want gun control. And because all this is happening, they're moving in a lot of gun control. You got the banning of the triggers and so the sanctions on Russian ammo, and you got they're taking Missouri to court for their Second Amendment sanctuary. You got the two FDA, AFT. Yeah. I always keep fucking those words. Now that it's been a meme, I'm going to always mess up the ATF from now on, because, people literally made shirts that said it the other way. And so that's going to take me a minute to get used to again. But yeah, you have the ATF's two rulings on frame-in receivers and the pistol brace. There's a lot of gun control going on. So yeah, they are trying to sweep a lot of that in under a lot of the normies' noses, while Afghanistan is such a big story. But maybe, and not only are they saying, look here while we do this over here, maybe they're saying, look this way, and while we got your attention, just follow the hand. Maybe it's just something to think about. Like I said, if they want Biden to stay in, he'll stay in. But if they wanted him out, Afghanistan was definitely a good enough reason to get him out. So we'll see how that plays out. And the more Democrats you see sign on to that ballot, the more likely you will be to see Biden actually get out. Because it's not going to be, even if all of the conservatives wanted it, they couldn't do it. So, and that's one more reason come 2022 why we need to flip some of these seats. And it's not just to put conservatives in power, it's to even the powers out a little bit. They already have the pandemic, and even some of the Republicans are abusing that. Well, maybe if we got a little bit better politicians and seats, we could slow some of it down. I think we are. It's going to be a snowball effect with the pandemic. It's already rolling. It's going to take something big to stop it, but maybe we can slow it down until. And then to just notice some of the things with, like I spoke on it before, the 9/11 anniversary and all the attention that's being thrown to the domestic terrorist and the conservatives and why they're the same thing, and the vax deniers and the mask deniers, and now they're domestic terrorists. Pay attention to how much they devote their time in the media towards the 9/11 anniversary, because I think they're in large part using that to focus their hate, because that's all they have is the hate for the other side. And now that they got you following the Afghanistan thing, they can get some of the stuff done they need done, but then they need to bring you back. So they've been feeding this narrative for a long time that, the domestic terrorists are going to be the next 9/11 and blah, 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 blah. Well, who's to say they don't get Biden out? And I've even said it. It's going to take something that tragic to reunite some of this division. Well, maybe they get Biden out. They have control. And if the division is still, as wide as it is, they use these patsies that work in their favor to bring a little bit of unity and some of them normies to their side. I think there's a lot of things that are happening that play into their narrative and help them a lot more than it just being a coincidence. And the closer we get to 2022, they know their time's running out, and they have to get as much done as possible with as much power as possible and have as much momentum as possible going into 2022, because that's all they have is the hate and the division. And if they don't get something to kind of, perk up their side's policies, all the next Republican nominee for president has to do is say, what do you have? you're gonna help the economy? You haven't. You've made it way worse. What are you gonna do? Help our border security? You haven't. You made it way worse. What are you gonna help? Gun violence? Your gun control hasn't helped. You've made it way worse. There is no aspect of this country where they are doing well, other than the division and the hate. I mean, they're doing a really good job at that. So they might be good for all we know if they would use a little bit less for their greed and, making all these big corporations money, but they're the ones who run it. So why would they? Why would they do anything else? All they have to do is keep your attention and keep you on their side. So all they need is to be as diversive as possible and make you hate the other side, and that keeps you on their side, and that allows them to do what they need to do. So they don't need to do anything else. They don't need to have good policies. I don't know, it's just a scary time, and I don't think that's, not by their design. I think it's absolutely part of their plan and their agenda. And if it's anything else, let this be a reason to maybe finish up some of the things that you need to do when it comes to your family and the security of your home. If you haven't wrapped up your make it home bag or whatever you need to do, maybe work on that before the 9/11 anniversary. Because for all we know, and as it looks like things are pointing that way, usually when the media is pushing a narrative and pushing a date, something happens. So, if you need to get more food, get more food. If you need to get more ammo, get more ammo. Whatever you guys need to do that is going to make your situation, if something were to happen, a little bit better, then get it done. They've given you plenty of reason to start those things, and now they're giving you dates to finish by those dates. Maybe, I wouldn't push it out to the last date. The only reason I was able to get as much ammo as I did before the pandemic is because as soon as people were talking about it, as soon as they said, have you heard about this flu? Have you seen it in the paper? You see what's going on in China? And don't get me wrong, I didn't have, a month or two to do it in, but I had a couple days before you had lines out the door and no ammo to be found and prices started getting jacked up. Well, now you got about 2.5 weeks before the 9/11 anniversary. And I think the closer every year that we get to 9/11, tensions get a little tense, and so, just get ahead of it. I'd get ahead of it. And even if nothing happens, and hopefully it doesn't happen, but even if it doesn't, just keep it in mind. We got 3 more years of Biden, and it's definitely not going in a good direction. And it gets worse and worse every day. So, just a couple of things to talk about. I did have some other topics, but I'm trying to save them for somebody that I'd like to, call in and get some of those things. And I wanted to give him some time to maybe do some research and get some talking points that, so he's not just shooting from the hip. So I don't want to make this one too long. And like I said, I've already done this like 3 or 4 times and something's happened. So we'll go ahead and wrap this one up and, get the things you need to get done and keep your family safe. Keep your guns close. Keep your loved ones closer. And until next time, guys, I love you. Stay safe. Peace, y'all.